Good morning, everybody. BDL44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm here to talk about the LA Lakers and the Clippers who are going to be playing at Intuit Dome. The first time the Lakers and Clippers will be faced off in that building. The Clippers have their own gym now. They don't have to hear our fans roaring and screaming and hollering and all of that. These are people who likely paid for Clipper tickets. But, I don't know. It might be the same dynamic, to be honest with you. It's still Inglewood. I mean, literally, I lived in Inglewood for the past 7 years, and it's LA. We're Laker town. In fact, we used to play at the Forum, which is literally around the corner from the Intuit Dome, but whatever. Point is the Inglewood Clippers will be available tonight. I think I'm going to start calling them now from here on out. The Inglewood Clippers will be who we face off at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Clippers have been winning, man. And the thing about it is they haven't had too many close games at all. Not too many. They're coming off of a big-time blowout against the Blazers, an even bigger time, much bigger time blowout against the Brooklyn Nets, for which we've already seen and heard about because of the fact that we just saw the Nets very recently. Before that, they faced off against the Spurs. No, that was us. Excuse me. Looking at the wrong thing here. They faced off against the Heat. We saw highlights of that because, of course, we just saw the Heat. So, kind of seeing some of the same teams as usual. That's how that goes. Before that, they saw Denver, and before that, they saw the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I saw the highlights for all of those games. They also had a game, of course, postponed with the Hornets, just like us. We had two. They had one game postponed. But the Hornets going to have to come back to LA, play both of these teams at some point. And that's just what it is. So, considering the Clippers, at the end of the day, man, this is a fantastic defensive team. They really do have some fantastic role players. And now they got Kawhi Leonard back. So they're at full strength for the most part. They are bluffing tonight, and that's exactly what I'm saying to you guys. They are bluffing tonight, telling us that there are a lot of players that they are know damn well are healthy and likely will play tonight, potentially won't play tonight. They're bull crapping, man. Don't trust these people. So Cam Christie's out. We know that for the Clippers. But Chris Dunn, Norman Powell, Zubats, and Harden are all game-time decisions. They're playing. Do not believe anything about this injury report as it pertains to those players. I don't. I think they're all playing. I would be extremely shocked if they don't. So that's what I'm here to say right now. I just don't think the Clippers going to be missing too much. These guys are day-to-day questionable. They running game, man. James Harden, illness, questionable. They running game. That's all it is. PJ Tucker will not be with the team moving forward forever. I think we've already known that for a long time. Isn't he with another team? I don't know. I'm just looking at what ESPN has listed here. So if you ask me, Zubats, Powell, and Harden will be playing. If you ask me, I'm not even going down that path. If they happen to be out, then great. But we're not doing that with you guys, Clippers. We're not. And of course, the Los Angeles Lakers have a few guys that we expect to be game time decisions and all that too. Anthony Davis, game time decision. Jackson Hayes with the shoulder. He hurt the shoulder in the last one, as we know. We talked a little bit about that. Also, I think Chris Dunn is also a game time decision. Again, if I didn't mention him already, I think he's playing. Braun is a game time decision. Playing. Jalen Hood-Schifino's out. Whatever. We know how that goes. I've said every game I tell you guys I don't think Jalen Hood-Schifino is hurt. I just think they hide him for really misguided reasons. And Jared Vanderbilt is still working his way back. I'd imagine he's close because we're near the end of the month, and that's what they said they were targeting. So we'll see. So I did watch highlights on all of those games. To be honest with you, the Clippers played. For the record, we're wearing our Lake Show loser jerseys. I love those uniforms, but we can't seem to win in those at all. We have a significantly bad record with those uniforms on, so they're starting to be synonymous with losing, like the orange Knicks jerseys from like 6 years ago. Infamous, where they couldn't win a single game wearing those. This is what the Lake Show unis are starting to be for us, and I hate that because I really like the uniforms. So we're wearing those tonight on the Intuit floor, and the Clippers will be wearing their white uniforms. Those are actually pretty snazzy if you ask me. I don't hate those at all. I hate their red ones. I hate their blue ones, but their white ones look pretty nice to me this year. The red ones are ugly, man. I was watching the Blazer highlights. It looked like there was the Blazers. Like they looked like the throwback Blazer uniform. I was like, I can't tell which team was which until like midway through the first quarter. I'm like, oh, so they're the Clippers. It was that bad for me. It really was. So anyway, man. Yeah, that's what's going on, man. I'll go over what I've done homework on in regards to the Clippers. We've already talked about who they played, but the thing about the Clippers over the last 5 games is all the games have been blowouts. either their way or the other way, um, by nothing less than 11 points. So that's something that concerns me going up against them, especially since I expect they would be healthy. Um, and then like the last game they lost was against the Denver Nuggets. They lost by 23 points. So they're on a 3-game winning streak right now. And I watched highlights of the Minnesota game before that. So I guess I'll work my way forward instead of working backward as I usually do. But they played the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was a very tight game. It was 108-106 about 6 games ago, if you want to count the game that was postponed. And Kawhi Leonard was just kind of working his way back. He shot poorly, 3 of 11. James Harden also shot poorly, 3 of 11 from behind the arc, 8-22 from the field. Kawhi was from the field, by the way. He was 2 of 5 from behind the arc. Norman Powell didn't shoot that great. So it was just a poor shooting night. Coffee shot poorly. They didn't shoot well. They went to Minnesota and really had one of their worst shooting performances. 41% from the field, 34% from the 3 on 35, 12 of 35 from behind the arc. They got beat on the glass. Timberwolves beat them 55-49. Don't expect that to be something that continues. They've been killing on the glass pretty much ever since. And they really did pretty well in their defensive stats. 9 steals and 10 blocks. I mean, this is one of the best defensive teams in the league today. They are. In fact, they're number 2 behind OKC. And Trevor Lane pointed out a stat that I thought was extremely cool, which was the top 4 defensive teams this year are overall, they have a better defensive rating than the top team that played defense last year. So that's Orlando, the Rockets, the Thunder, and the Clippers, not in that order, are all better defensive teams than the top defensive team last year. So that'll let you know something. And Orlando's been missing guys. That's extremely impressive on their side. But that just goes to show you how serious it's about to be. The turnovers could potentially be a problem tonight. Our lack of ball handlers and stuff like that could really be an issue tonight. We really tend to turn the ball over against good defenses, and we haven't seen one, with the exception of that one OKC game that I barely remember, and the Orlando games. Well, we haven't seen a team this good defensively too often this year, so this is not the night to be crapping off, turning the ball over, and being laissez-faire with the basketball. They're going to take it from you, so don't have any unforced ones is what it ultimately comes down to for the team. I think at the end of the day, man, when you talk about the LA Clippers, you just got to point out how many nice role players they have. You're talking about all the way up and down the roster. I see a bunch of guys that I like, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I hate the Clippers with all my heart, but they've done a great job putting this roster together. Kobe Brown has been getting some minutes slowly but surely. Bones Highland, Mo Bamba, Kevin Porter Jr., Amir Coffey, Terrence Mann is now back after being out for a little while with a broken finger or something like that. Derek Jones Jr., who I know Dallas is tripping off of the fact that he's now a Clipper. Nicholas Batum, whom I've been referring to a lot as a type of piece that probably could help the Lakers if he were in his prime and played for us. Chris Dunn, a nice defensive point guard, could also help our team some. Norman Powell, who's just a phenomenal scorer, highly underrated, probably an all-star level scorer this year. James Harden, who's had a renaissance year, he's doing well. He looks good. He's doing all the stuff that James does. Ivica Zubac, who's really coming into his prime. I could argue he might be an all-star this year, even though I don't actually think he'll make the team. He should be up for it. And as I look at the stats in that Minnesota game, he had 6 blocks, 16 rebounds, 17 points, 1 steal, 2 assists. Yeah, we gave him away for nothing. This regime, gave him away at the trade deadline several years back for nothing. And he's been with the Clippers ever since, and just developing exactly as well as we expect Zubac to do. And of course, they got Kawhi Leonard on his team, man, who plays when he wants to play. And we'll see if he actually shoots up tonight. I'm sure he will. So yeah, that's the thing, man. They got so much good talent on this roster. They've done a great job putting role players around James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, and because of it, they've stumbled into one of the best defensive teams in the last couple of years. So yeah, as we move forward, after that Minnesota game, they had the Denver Nuggets, and the Denver Nuggets, of course, as we said, blew them out. I don't really know what the situation was there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jokic did not play in that game. In fact, I know he didn't. But Russell Westbrook had 19, Jamal Murray had 21, Christian Brown had 15. So, Michael Porter Jr. had 19. So they just had a bunch of nuggets that contributed to a lot. Julian Strawther had 16 off the bench. And the Clippers continued their lowly struggles shooting the ball for that particular situation. 2 of 8 from behind the arc, 5 of 15 from the field for James Harden in that game. Norman Powell walked away with 30, though. 8 of 17 from the field, 4 of 10 from behind the arc, 10 of 13 from the free throw line. Do not let James Harden get to the free throw line. Norman Powell or James Harden. Don't let either one of those people get to the free throw line. They will be the main course of attack on the offensive end for the Clippers. But they couldn't get anything out of anybody else. They really had a bad shooting night from their bench for sure. Amir Coffey, 2 of 11, 1 of 4 man, 1 of 4 Highland, 1 of 5 bomb. But it was just bad shooting. They went to Denver and just got smoked. So they were just having a bad week in terms of their scoring. That has since worked out for them. They've completely turned that around since this particular game. But they shot 37% from the field, 28% from behind the arc, putrid. And had 14 assists. It would go again with that conversation. 29 for the Denver Nuggets, 14 for them. Can't win that way. And they got smashed in the paint, 56-24. But that's something that the Nuggets do to a lot of people these days. You add Westbrook to your team, you got Jokic down there, they're going to get to the line and get to the rim. That's just what you know. So the Denver Nuggets are starting to pull their act together, and they were the last team to beat the Clippers. And now we start getting into where the Clippers really did well from there. The postponement, I think, kind of shook them into position. So they hadn't played since the 8th, and then the next game was on the 13th. That rest did them a world of good. They ran into that Miami Heat team we saw. And as we mentioned when we saw the Heat did not shoot very well in that game. 17 of 52 from behind the arc for 32%, which is actually pretty good when you think about 52 attempts. 32% ain't the worst thing in the world. 33 of 85, though, from the field, which is 38%. That's not very good. Clippers shot 13 of 36 from the 3 and 48% from the field with 45 of 93 attempts. Clippers got beat on the board by 1. 49-48 there. And ultimately, the Clippers won the game in the paint. After getting clobbered in the paint by the Denver Nuggets, they came back and clobbered the Miami Heat in the paint, 60-28, and had 27-14 fast break points. So that's really where they did their damage. They just punched them all in the gut and sent the Miami Heat home. Pretty strong losers, man. That's really what it came down to. Pretty strong losers. Tyler Hero walked away with 32 points. Khalil Ware had 19 and 13. But ultimately, they didn't get a whole lot out of everybody else. And because of it, the Clippers were able to really take advantage of a big Zubats game. 21 and 20. 21 points, 20 rebounds, 2 blocks. 4 offensive rebounds on 10 of 13 shooting from Zuby. So Harden, 9 of 17. 6 of 10 from behind the arc. 26 points, 11 assists. 1 block, 1 steal, 5 rebounds. Huge game from James Harden there. Norman Powell went for 29 points, 3 steals, 6 rebounds on 12 of 17 shooting, 5 of 8 from behind the arc. So they just really smoked the hell out of the Miami Heat. It was some really good shooting there. Kevin Porter didn't shoot that great, though. He was 3 of 10, but it didn't hurt the team. And Derrick Jones Jr. walked away with 9 points, 4 of 7 from the field. So, yeah, that's really what it came down to. Zubats, Harden, and Norman Powell just went absolutely nuts. They had a quiet game from Kawhi, 3 of 9 from the field, 0 of 3 from behind the arc. He was still working himself back into shape, which tells me by now Kawhi's going to be Kawhi. You're going to have to deal with the actual Kawhi. This was the Kawhi coming back from being gone for a year. They've since played several games. And now we talk about that Brooklyn game that, of course, clearly was bad. If you guys were watching me react to the Laker game that night, you saw me actually lose my mind over the third quarter score of 100-49, and it ended 126-67. We've since talked about this game several times. The Brooklyn Nets shot 30% from the field, 17% from behind the arc. One of the worst shooting performances I've ever seen, and you have to credit the Clipper defense, of course, for forcing them into that. Of course, they didn't have a lot of their players in Brooklyn. No D'Lo, no Ben Simmons, no Cam Johnson. They played their hopefuls, and their hopefuls were not very hopeful that night. It was bad shooting, and the Clippers took advantage. 8 of 11 from Kawhi Leonard from the field, so he started getting the shooting together right around there. Derrick Jones Jr. again, 4 of 7 for the second time in a row. Zubats was 4-6, a little bit more quiet, but still a good game for 11 points, 1 block, 1 steal, 4 assists, and 9 boards. James Harden walked away with another game with double-digit assists, 21 and 11. There, 2 steals and 6 rebounds. See, he's starting to contribute to the steals side. You got to be careful with James Harden. He has improved as a defensive player. Shot 6 of 10 from the field, 3 of 5 from behind the arc, and made all his free throws, 6 out of them. They shot great from the free throw line. As I just look at the numbers here, they shot 93% from the free throw line against Brooklyn. That's hard. They're hard to beat when they shooting that well. From the easy stripe. Yeah, and they got a lot of bench points. Guys who are really contributing. Kai Jones with 6, Bamba with 7, Highland with 9, 11 from Coffee. So they really had a lot of, 5 from Terrence Mann, who's now also starting to get a couple games under his belt. He should start rounding in the form. So the Clippers you're running into are a very good team. They didn't even play Kevin Porter Jr. As a DNP for that game, which is kind of crazy when you consider there was so much garbage time and so many people played that game. I believe it was like 11 people off their bench that played. So, yeah, the Clippers just really put up what I would imagine is a historic win there. 126-67 against the Brooklyn Nets, who we later came back and beat by 1. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, and then they went on to do the same thing to the Portland Trailblazers after that. With that game where I said they looked like they were the Blazers themselves, yeah, that was this game. The very last game they played, 118-89. And, excuse me, it looks like Kawhi Leonard didn't play in that game. Man, they didn't need him because Zubats went for 5 of 10, 10 points, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 3 assists, 8 rebounds. Norman Powell went for 23 points, 3 assists, 5 rebounds, plus 28 there. That's pretty good. Zubac was a plus 28 as well. On 7 of 12 shooting, 3 of 4 from behind the arc for Powell. James Harden was 1 of 8 from behind the arc. Hopefully he's cold tonight from behind the arc, maybe, James. 7 of 16 from the field. Overall, 19.6 assists. No, that's not even no fouls, but whatever. Chris Dunn had 7 points, 3 steals, 3 assists, 6 rebounds. It's probably the best game I've seen from him in regards to these highlights and these stats. Terrence Mann, as I said, starting to work his way back into form in 22 minutes of play. 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 3 from behind the arc. 14 points, 5 rebounds off the bench. Coffee had 10 points, 2 assists. And once again, you look at the depth of the Clippers. They played, of course, because it was garbage time, 10 people off the bench. So that's another thing that contributes to the Clippers' overall strength this year is the fact that they have so many people that they go to on your bench. If you notice, the Lakers play like 4 or 5 people. This team plays 11 people off of their bench. So they get to stay healthy. They get to give themselves plenty of bodies. And I think that's going to prove to be very, very dangerous come playoff time. Just like I used to say about the Sacramento Kings, had like 22 people on their bench at any given moment and switch them all out and keep everybody healthy. It's exactly what the Clippers have adapted to this year. Very, very smart, very, very sneaky way to position themselves. I would not be surprised, now that I'm looking at this, if the Clippers are a team that does better in the playoffs than they're supposed to, quote unquote. If they're in the Western Conference Finals or something like that, I wouldn't entirely be too surprised right now, especially if they can keep everybody healthy, because Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi, James Harden's playing well, and then they got all these little, Swiss Army knife type guys like Derrick Jones Jr. and Terrence Mann and Coffee and Kobe Brown. All these dudes are talented as hell. Nicholas Batum, Kai Jones, Bamba with the length there. Bones Highland's now working his way back into the equation. I'm sure he's going to jack up a lot of shots. Very inefficient basketball player, but definitely somebody who has high ceiling potential scoring the ball. So I'm telling y'all, the Clippers are probably one of the best put together teams in basketball right now. My problem with the Clippers is I don't trust their stars, but their stars are healthy, and James Harden's playing like James Harden. So you got to deal with them. And then with Zubac having a career year, and Norman Powell being completely healthy, playing like Norman Powell when he's healthy, I hate to tell people this, but the Clippers are probably a low-key Western Conference contender. I don't think they're their record. Not if Kawhi Leonard's back. I don't think so. I think you have to ignore the record, look at the defense, and then understand the closers that they got. Kawhi Leonard's a closer, so I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think the Clippers are probably going to have a strong second half if they can keep everybody healthy. A very strong second half. But it does come down to Kawhi Leonard, and you can count on him somehow missing some games for some reason, and that's what's going to cap off their ceiling. We know it. You know it, and I know it. So that sums up what the Clippers have been doing over the last 6 games. It's blowouts one way or another. If they ain't getting blown out by Denver, they're blowing everybody else out. That's really what it is. Norman Powell's on the heater. James Harden's finding ways to contribute to the defense. Zubac is killing on the glass, and they have role players up the backside, so to speak. 11 guys they use every single night off the bench alone. There's always going to be fresh legs and weird roster rotations being thrown at you. This is not a good matchup for the Lakers right now at all. With our bench issues and the fact that we're running scrubs out there, no disrespect to anybody, but we're running scrubs out there, I have no reason to believe we're beating the Clippers tonight. No reason at all. I'm just going to be honest with you. With the issues we're having on the defensive end, the issues we're having on the offensive end, and going up against an elite defense like this, who has a bunch of lethal offensive scorers that get to the line and hit threes, it's just not the matchup. It's just not the time. You got Zubac in the paint, for which we're having a lot of issues. We're definitely going to be running Trey Jemison out there. And then you got players on this Laker team that may not play, depending on how they feel coming out in this game. I don't like this. This is not lining up well, especially the way we played against the Brooklyn Nets. It's not lining up very well. On their floor, and they're just opening up this building. I don't like it. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't like it. We're going to need a huge game out of Anthony Davis. We're going to need Austin Reeves to continue on his all-star Reeves tear. He's been playing great lately, 38 points in the last one, career high. We love that. But as I said, the Lakers are having issues on both sides of the floor. You know, we've scored 102 in the last game. We did have a nice shooting night against the Heat, 117. That was impressive because they are a good defense. But, you know, we scored 102 points against the Spurs, 97 points against the Dallas Mavericks. So we've been having some offensive issues with the exception of the Heat game, man. We've been having offensive issues, and our defense has been awful in all of those games, one of the worst. So the Lakers are struggling on both sides of the floor. I think it's an optical illusion that we're on a 2-game winning streak, and it will be one of the bigger wins of the season if we can find a way to scrounge together a good enough production from enough people to stop a Clipper team that runs 11 deep, 17. What is it? My math is crap. But we have a lot of people that they're going to have to be going up against tonight, and we just don't throw a lot of people at people, and that's really what the problem is right now. And when we do, they're not overly talented players. You know, 4 deep on our bench. Trey Jemison, Gabe Vincent, and Shake Milton and Dalton Connect were the only people who played on the bench in the last game. We've been DMP and Cam Reddish. I know he played poorly against the Portland Trail Blazers, but we are not a talented enough team to not utilize his strengths on the defensive end. So that he's getting DMPs and he's healthy, I have a real problem with that. And I'm not saying I'm the biggest Cam Reddish fan, but he's done enough this year to not be removed from the lineup. If he got into it with coach or something like that, maybe he did something, I don't know. They're not telling us that. But to give him DMPs, we're not talented enough to be giving Cam Reddish DMPs. We're just not. You know what I mean? Like, no, not at all. And so the Clippers are just a significantly more talented basketball team than the Lakers right now. I hate to say this to people, but they are, man. And if Jackson Hayes is going to have the shoulder issue, we can't rely upon him and his length. Anthony Davis is going to have to play. Jemison's going to have to play. You know what I mean? Like, they just got better players right now, people. That's the concern. You're just running up against a Clipper team that's just got better players. Rui's going to have to get his numbers where they need to be tonight. Him getting over 9 attempts is always what we like. They've been up in his attempts. I don't know how much that had to do with Anthony Davis not being available in the last one. But if Rui Hachimura is shooting above 9 attempts, I think it's for the betterment of our offense. Ron James is on the heater. He's been shooting great lately. Hopefully that continues. I think he had a really good performance against the Brooklyn Nets. I gave him the game ball. 29 points, 8 assists, 2 blocks, 1 steals. Although the 5 turnovers is always something we have to ask LeBron to fix, man. 4-6 from behind the arc. We love the shooting, though. He really shot well. And then Austin Reeves has been on a tear, man. 38 points, as I said in the last game, on 13 of 23 attempts, 4 of 8 from the field, 4 of 8 from behind the arc, and hit all his free throws, 8 of them. And then Gabe Vincent has really been helpful as well. 4 of 8 from the field, 1 of 5 from 3. Not really great there, but 10 points, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 3 assists. Very impressive line for Gabe Vincent for what we asked him for. And so that we're not getting anything out of Dalton Connect is a problem. We really need his talent to show up tonight. And if he's going to be the Dalton he's been, we're not going to be good enough to win, I think. I'm not saying everything's on him, But let's say he does have a heater night tonight, then we see ourselves being competitive. So him not playing well and not having any confidence, not contributing to pretty much any category, it hurts the team terribly when you have the talent issues that we're having right now. So that's the thing, man. Max Christie, same thing. 2 of 13 from the field, 2 of 8 from behind the arc. Max just had a bad shooting night. I could very easily see him shooting better than that. He's just a young player, gonna have some inconsistency shooting. He puts in the reps, gets some years under his belt. We look up, we don't have these problems. So I'm excited about Max Christie. Just keep him healthy. I have no bad things to say about Max. I want to keep him. I'm not putting him on any trades. I don't see any point in giving up the only true two-way wing we actually have. Can do things that wings do, athleticism. He shouldn't be on the trade block. If I don't think he is. But if for some reason the Lakers do put him on the trade block, I think it's a massive mistake. And I would be very upset. So I want us to hold on to Max Christie, keep him out of all trade talks. We need him. And he's great for our present and our future. So Max Christie should be off limits, in my opinion. I think the Lakers definitely could use some talent, though. We need to do something, or we need to accept that this is the roster, and it's going to be a tough second half of the season for us. I just don't think we are currently lining up enough talent. I do think we'll get back Dorian Finney-Smith. He's not on the injury report tonight. Of course, his lady had a baby very recently. Congratulations to their family. He's ready to go. So I think he'll be out there in the Intuit Dome, ready to face the Clippers, and we're going to need him. We're going to need him to show up big, and hopefully he's feeling great. So that's what I want to see there, especially since Jackson Hayes is out. We're probably going to be having some small ball lineups, which doesn't look good, given the fact that Zubac is out there. Hopefully he misses the game, but like I said, I don't trust anybody is missing this game tonight, and even if they do miss the game, you got to deal with a lot coming off their bench, as we already know. So, the more I think about the Laker roster right now, the more I wonder if the Clippers will rest some people. Because the Lakers aren't that damn talented, so they could probably get away with resting some people and still win the game. That's now a thing. When I look at those two rosters, as I'm in real time, as I'm looking at this, I'm saying they may be able to get away with resting Kawhi Leonard or something like that and still beat the hell out of us because of how untalented we ultimately are and how poorly we've been playing these last couple games. Our ceiling has lowered, y'all, and even though Austin and Braun have been shooting very well, Anthony Davis has to play well for us to be good, man. That's what it really comes down to, because you can't count on anybody else. If Dalton Knecht was playing like the Dalton we know he's capable of, then that would change things a lot. But since he's been a non-factor, now you find yourself needing production from people that you just flat out can't rely upon. And that is the issue. The Lakers are not very talented. Moving D'Lo, it didn't help the cause. To me, it didn't help the cause, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. Us beating up the Brooklyn Nets by 1 point after the Clippers beat them by 59. It's not a good sign, y'all. And then you got to go in the Clipper building right after that. That's not a good sign, y'all. So I'm a little more pessimistic against this Clipper team tonight than I have been. Because I'm just looking at the makings of a Laker team that just probably on paper can't really compete with this team unless Bron and AD take over, like literally take over, man. And even in doing so, you got to deal with Zubac, who's playing all-star level ball, 7 foot tall, 300 pounds or whatever he is. So that's my concern, man. I am very much pessimistic about this particular game. Usually when I am this pessimistic, we actually go out and win. And I have a theory about that. I think sometimes that has to do with betting, because if something looks a certain way, it lines up a certain way, and they have it go the other way, they can clean up in the betting side of things. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers get to the line twice as much as the Clippers tonight or something like that. Just wouldn't shock me. Try to make it so that we look a lot better than we do. Now, these records tell you that these teams are closer than they are, but we've taken some steps backwards with our roster, and they've ultimately gotten guys back healthy with theirs. So they're 23-17. We're 22-17. And somehow we got to just try to get this win so we can capture fifth place, I think is what we're fighting for right now. But, that's what it is, man. We're on a 2-game winning streak, and yet and still I just feel like so pessimistic about this roster. I really do right now. But that's just what it is. That's what it is, man. I'm happy we got Trey Jemison. I loved the pick that he set on whoever the hell that was. I think it was Zaire Williams. think it's who he just put. You know, I mean, he shook that man's whole world when he ran into him. That's the type of thing that's been lacking on our team, the type of size that Trey brings. I think he could rebound the ball. He had 2 blocks. Didn't attempt a shot. So can't say, that I was surprised by that. He's not really a scorer. But I really think he's got 6 fouls to give, and he's going to hurt some people. He's going to hurt some people. You're going to run a couple of them screens, and you're going to feel that. So we're definitely going to need him against Zubac tonight. And I'm very curious to see what he does tonight on the boards, and ultimately if he can have any success in pushing Zuby around. That's going to be very important. Zubac is a talented center. Nobody's ever accused him of being very tough or strong. I don't think he's soft per se, but physically he's never been somebody that I would accuse of being a tough person. So he could potentially have issues with a Trey Jemison. Trey is 270 pounds, not nearly as tall, but I think Jemison could, if anybody on this roster could give Zubac some trouble, it's probably Trey Jemison. So hopefully we'll see him tonight, and hopefully he'll get all the minutes necessary with Jackson Hayes being out. I definitely don't mind Jackson not being on this team, y'all. I think most people agree Jackson is not a rim protector. I like him to a degree. Rebounding's not really his greatest thing, but he's a better rebounder than a lot of guys. Lob threat with athleticism is cool, but I just don't think we've been able to harness much of what he does. We need more of a rim protector. We need more of a bruiser. And I just think that Jemison and Koloko probably fit that bill a bit better. So if we can move Jackson Hayes maybe for something and then call up Koloko off of that 2-way so we can actually use him, I think that would make a lot of sense, man. Just trade Jackson Hayes into the win. I don't care what you trade him for. Just move him. And so that we can have the roster spot to call up Koloko, because flat out, Koloko is a better piece for what we are. And Jackson Hayes is somebody we like when he's playing well, but the type of center that you need, he's not going to be even when he's playing well. I can move Jackson Hayes and feel better about the addition by subtraction. I know we have a center issue, so you want to keep as many centers as possible. But if you got a center that doesn't do the things that centers do, he's no threat from anywhere from behind the arcs. Sometimes you'll see him dribbling the ball toward defenders to get the ball to somebody else when he's open. Like that type of stuff it hurts possessions bad. It hurts possessions. So for me, I want to see Jackson Hayes succeed. But at this point, I think I need the guy that's on the 2-way that can't play because of the contractual circumstances more than I need the guy that we have on a regular roster at this point. And I think everybody feels that way. So if I would do anything, I'd probably just move Jackson Hayes. I don't know what you can get for him. And quite honestly, I don't care. You're not going to waive him. Trade him for cash considerations. I don't care. I don't think you can get a second-round pick for him. But if you can move him for a hopeful or something like that, that's probably the move. And then call up Koloko and give him a regular roster spot. Or you're going to find yourself not having the center position straight at all. I think that Christian Wood, asking him to be anything like defensive is just silly. His length can help. His scoring is what he's here for. And I can't wait to see him get buckets. But if I'm asking him to do any of those things that we need centers to do, I might as well just continue asking Jackson Hayes to do those things too, because they both can't do those things. And given the fact that Wood is coming off a knee, and I don't even know if he's coming back anytime soon since we haven't heard any updates there, I think letting go of him probably makes sense too. Moving him and Jackson Hayes and using those roster spots on healthy bodies that can actually fill the roles that we need them to play, I think is the only way to go at this point. And I think that's kind of where the focus should be. Just move out the stuff we cannot use for stuff that we definitely can, LA. So that's what I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in making trades that's going to do. Some of the trades I'm hearing about are cool. Bruce Brown, I think could be an interesting piece, but he's not a connective piece. I don't think he helps me with my assist problem. Point of attack defense. Everybody talks about point of attack defense. I think that's an important thing. Get to the line, score from behind the arc, great field goal shooter. So I'd love to have Bruce Brown. I think he's starting to round into form. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Before the last injury, he didn't look like he had too many health issues, so I think it's a good time to buy low on that particular player. I'm up for it. But bring me back something too that comes from Toronto that can fill another need, because if that's going to be the last trade you make, you still have the offensive issue that I think is there until you get that connective piece, that facilitator. until you get that center that you can trust coming up from behind Anthony Davis. Pause. Until you get that piece, those pieces, I don't think you can really compete like you need to, and that's really comes down to ball handler like Bruce Brown could help, but I don't know that he's a assist guy. I don't think he's a playmaker like that. So, that's really what it comes down to. I think we need more of a pure point guard type facilitator. I really think that. So yeah, that's what it is, man. If the Lakers aren't going to try to turn Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes into those pieces, I don't think we're going to be that great of a team. As long as we're waiting on the endless void of Christian Wood to come back. Vanderbilt, I'm assuming, is around the corner. That's what they say. Endless void of waiting on him. And then we're just filling our roster up with guys like Shake Milton. Shake Milton doesn't feel any need for this roster, man. Like, no need at all. And the coach doesn't want to play Cam. Dalton's not playing that well. I'm counting on Gabe Vincent to continue playing like this. If he goes back to being Cardi G, we're going to be one of the worst teams on the planet. So that's what it comes down to. It's just it's a talent issue that the Lakers are dealing with, and they're cutting good players. They're cutting Quincy Olivari. Like, no, this has been awful. I don't know what the science is behind a lot of these moves at this point, but this, for the stuff that people have been complaining about before we made moves in regards to our GM, I'm more so complaining about the moves we have made over the last couple of weeks. I just hate what we've done to our roster. We butchered it. We got rid of all the young talent that was coming up that could potentially be role players and stuff like that. And we brought in, like, not talented people. And we already had enough not talented people that we were running. So it just made our team not very good. So I don't think we are our record. And I don't think the Clippers are their record. I think we're a lot worse than our record. And I think they're a lot better than their record. And that's the concern. Are we going to start tumbling down the standings because of it? That's what I'm worried about. So, big game against the Clippers, man. I'm not going to be sitting up here saying, oh, F the Clippers, this, you're going into that. I'm not doing that. When I think they're better than us, I'm eating humble pie, and I'm hopeful we can overcome. But right now, they are significantly better than us on paper. And judging by the way they played their last couple games versus how we played our last couple games, we might be in for a bad night. So, yeah, I'm not going to be doing the hoorah Clipper hate game tonight. I'm not doing that. We need to show up. And we need to understand that we're playing a team that has more talent on the floor. And if we don't play smart, crash the boards, respect that they're an elite defense, they're going to kick us. And they're going to kick us in the tail, man. It's going to be bad. So that's what I want people to understand. That's pretty much what I got to say. Game is 6 p.m. BDF 44, thank you all for watching.